The country's health crisis could get worse as nurses now vow to join doctors as from next week on their strike. We'll be telling you more about that. Also, if you are a budding entrepreneur and you're wondering how you can get funds for your startup, tonight on Disruptive Fridays, we've got you. We have that plus more other stories, including tonight, doctors strike. Looming crisis in the public healthcare system as nurses now plan to join doctors in their strike.
We will still come out, and we have vowed that we are not going to be cowed by the machinations or prongs of bureaucracy.
Raila's succession jolts the Azimio camp after Kalonzo and Karua jostle for the leadership mantle in the wake of Kalonzo's endorsement by Eugene Wamalwa and Simba Arati in Kisii.
Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, kuja Kisii, tembea, tuko tayari kutembea pamoja na wewe. Baba amekwenda Addis Ababa. Tunataka watu wa Nyamira mjue, baba akienda ametuachia Kalonzo wamsiokaa.
And tonight, on the second part of our special feature, Feeding the Nation, we tell you of the deliberate steps taken by stakeholders to ensure Kenya is food secure.
Grow the area under irrigation from the current 80,000 for rice to about 240,000 in terms of the acreage which is there. And this will move us from where we are producing now about 240,000 to around 416,000 metric tons. And now the balance to be able to go up to 1.2 million, we need to do that by the year 2030.
Good evening once more. My name is Eric Munene. Our sign language interpreter at the bottom end of your screen is Rhoda Nyimai. Now, the looming health catastrophe might now be well and truly with us, as from next week, nurses will be joining doctors on strike to paralyze public health services even more. This is even as hospitals in rural areas declining NHIF, as well as an ultimatum given to the government to suspend the mandatory use of the e-team system. In protests held today, the leadership of the KMPDU insisted that the strike will go on for as long as necessary in order to get their needs met. Kisewa Emory kickstarts this bulletin tonight.
Chants of Nakumicha must go reverberated in Nairobi's central business district as the Kenya Medical Practitioners, Pharmacists and Dentists Union, KMPDU, held its largest protests on the 9th day of the doctors' strike.
We, as the medical students, we will still come out, and we have vowed that we are not going to be cowed by the machinations or prongs of bureaucracy or the whims of indifference in this country.
The Secretary General of the KMPDU, Davji Atela, insists that the strike will go on for as long as possible in order to get their demands met by the Ministry of Health.
We have said we went on strike for 100 days to get this CBA. We are ready to go for double that or for 300 days until they actually acknowledge the need for it.
Medical services are set to get even scarcer as the Nurses Association of Kenya have vowed to join the strike in solidarity with the doctors as soon as next week.
We'll join the doctors next week on Goslow, and we'll consult our respective members to abide by this.
The association has urged the Ministry of Health to comply with the collective bargaining agreement signed after a 100-day strike in 2017. This comes just a day after the Ministry of Health and the KMPDU held an extensive 7-hour meeting that yielded no headway in negotiations. The strike has received support from the Kenya Obstetrical Gynecological Society, while it pushed back on claims by the Health Cabinet Secretary Susan Nakumicha that gynecologists are too many in the country.
The society is 100% behind the strike that is happening, and we support our colleagues because these interns who have not been posted, and they are the pillars of the health services in this country. As I said, they have a cadres as well, but this is also a very important cadre.
With the doctor strike on its 9th day and efforts to reconcile both parties proving futile even after yesterday's closed-door meeting, the doctors insist that the strike will still go on until their demands are met. Kisewa Emory reporting for TV47, Nairobi.
Thank you, Kisewa Emory, for that. Now, the ongoing doctor strike is not likely to end anytime soon if the conclusion of the Thursday night meeting is anything to go by. The 7-hour-long meeting between the government and the doctors' union ended with both camps sticking to their guns as millions of Kenyans who seek healthcare in public hospitals continue suffering. Paul Kirobi with that.
Long meeting Thursday night brought to the fore deep-seated headlines positions, with both the government and the doctors' union remaining adamant on their positions, with no resolution to the strike which entered its 90th day today.
Wherever they are, and all the doctors and the interns, wherever they are, is that the court stayed the strike.
So we cannot say that we are complying to Order 6 and leaving these other orders that actually know that the critical issues for the notice.
The doctors are said to have presented a list of 19 demands that they say must be met before they call off the strike. Key among them being the posting of medical interns, the provision of a clear framework on postgraduate trainings, the payment of salary arrears, poor funding of the health sector and the lack of medical cover for doctors, as per the collective bargaining agreement of 2017 to 2021, which they say the government has been non-committal on its implementation.
So it was very difficult to actually change that for 2 months or 3 months when we have a collective bargaining agreement that is signed, that defines this, that is also a court order and agreed contract. We also have the law, which is Cap 253 on the same.
On his part, the head of public service, Felix Koskei, said some of the grievances raised by the medics could not be implemented at the moment. Besides that, the government wants the medics to resume work while the talks continue and also come up with the meaning of the term medical intern.
But having had discussions this tonight and realizing that these doctors are even manning hospitals almost alone. You may have one consultant and so many interns running the hospital on their own.
And as the two entities continue fighting, millions of Kenyans who have the inalienable right to quality healthcare continue suffering with no end in sight. The meeting ended with the formation of a 13-member committee tasked with what seems like beginning the negotiation process from square one, with the next meeting set for Monday. Paul Kirobi, TV47, Nairobi.
Now, after the much anticipation, the Kora gravity system panning through the Bura irrigation scheme will be active by July, putting an end to the 120 million shillings used yearly to pump water to only a region of the extensive farmlands. But what prospects does this add to filling up the food basket? Once active, the one-of-a-kind technology would more than double the acreage under irrigation from 12,000 to 25,000 acres, according to the National Irrigation Authority CEO, Engineer Charles Mwasi. This will provide a diversion canal and dikes that would transform one of the driest areas in the country, but will also have a silting basin which could curb the flooding instances in the region exponentially. Hibak Said tells us more.
Within the rice fields of Kenya, we produced around 214,000 metric tons of rice. This, as we know, we need about 1.1 million metric tons of rice in order to ensure we are food sufficient. This seemingly misplaced lush greenery is uncharacteristically in Garissa County, with temperatures ranging around 40 degrees Celsius this March. Not a cloud in sight as the rice sways in the midday sun. And nomads turned farmers now ferry their produce to faraway markets. Produce that you didn't think would thrive so well in this area.
We have an ambitious plan in the next 2 years to move from the, to grow the area under irrigation from the current 80,000 for rice to about 240,000 in terms of the acreage which is there. And this will move us from where we are producing now about 240,000 to around 416,000 metric tons. And now the balance to be able to go up to 1.2 million, we need to do that by the year 2030.
And we are very happy, and we can report to Kenyans that farmers have really embraced what we have really invested in the country.
Two undeniable facts remain. One, that Kenya is still 75% arid and semi-arid. And two, that hundreds of thousands of acres remain underutilized due to scarcity of water and rainfall that is unpredictably affected by the effects of climate change. So the only option, increasing the land under irrigation.
Kwamboka rice is one of the varieties that the government is using in areas such as this to ensure that we produce more rice per year.
Tukaanza na basmati na yenyewe ilifanya, lakini production yake ikawa iko chini na quality nayo ikawa iko mbaya, haikufanya vizuri. Ndipo sasa tukaanza tukapata hii mbegu inaitwa Komboka. Na tangu tuanze kupata mbegu ya Komboka, tunaona inafanya kazi mzuri na inasaidia mazao ya mpunga hapa Bura sana. Na hata imeanza kuinua maisha ya wakulima wa Bura.
With more than 176,000 acres gazetted under Bura irrigation scheme, the initial plan may seem ambitious.
When we look at this project now, Bura, where we are, we have kind of a number of interested investors who have come on board, and we are working on a formula. The moment the gravity is done, because we are increasing now with the gravity. We just have a mere about 12,000, which is under production per se. Growing that now from 12,000 to 25,000, we are going to need to have investors on this project. And we are working on modalities on how to onboard them. Of course, now securing and making all our farmers are well accommodated in this project.
The Kora gravity system would more or less triple the pumping capacity to these farms from 2.7 to 11 meters cubic per second, ensuring that water is not a hindrance but an addition to the agriculture aspirations of the country. All this from the river Tana, the mother of life, an eternally snaking spring of hope.
This diversion right here in the form of a canal could mean life or death to millions of Kenyans and could mean sustenance to hundreds of thousands of farmers from this particular area. The new technology, the gravity technology, is now in place, so we get to see, is it beneficial for the people or is it just another development project?
The contractor is committed to deliver as per his promise.
The charting continues, getting closer and closer to an end than ever before. This means that by mid this year, rice production in this scheme will increase to 950,000 bags, while maize bags will increase to 500,000.
Tukishamaliza kuvuna ile nini ya kwanza tutapata gunia 45 na tukirudisha ile ni la tuni tutapata pengine 20 na 25.
The advancements will have a ripple effect to employment as well, increasing from 30,000 to 150,000, boosting the economy by at least 6 billion shillings yearly.
The area now which is currently production is about 5,000 with the farmers themselves, and 5,000 we have about 3,000 or thereabout of the Bura farmers themselves now who are settled and who are doing farming on this project.
Numbers aside are the people of this region who have had to adjust their cultures and ways of living for survival.
Mwanzo kabisa tulikuwa tukilima mmea unaitwa pamba na baadaye ukaja ukapotea sababu ya matatizo fulani. Tukaingilia ukulima wa mbegu kidogo nao ukaja ukapotea kwa mambo fulani. Tukaingilia vilimo vingine ambavyo viko na mpangilio. Lakini kuanzia 2017 ndio sisi kama wakulima wenyewe tulianza kufanya research sisi wenyewe ya ukulima wa mpunga.
This having even more of a ripple effect through the value chain to merchants who travel hundreds of kilometers for the food produced in this region as demand increases.
Eka moja nusu ndo tani 10, tunapata tani 10. Eka tatu tunatoa kama tani 20. Ni inaenda na seasonal variation.
Hii meo tunanunua kilo 25, 30 ama 33 kwa shamba. Na mimi nausianga Nairobi marikiti.
So what is the future of the Kora Trail, a live stream that has been adjusted and broken, canaled and rerouted to stream down to individual farms?
I'm seeing some light at the end of the tunnel. Finally, this project will be completed this year, and farmers, the willingness of the farmer to participate in production is overwhelming.
Hibak Said for TV47.
Well, thank you, Hibak Said, for that. Now, as Kenya joins the world in marking World Water Day with a keen focus to leveraging water for peace, it is evident that the perennial issue of water scarcity is not only a thorn in the flesh for those residing in the Asal regions, but also in the urban areas, including Kenya's capital, Nairobi. Our reporter Elizabeth Atieno visited Nairobi's Mukuru kwa Njenga slum, where residents are forced to look for money in order to purchase the vital commodity.
7 kilometers southeast of Nairobi's central business district lies the famous Mukuru kwa Njenga slum, one of the largest informal settlements in Kenya that is home to over 300,000 people. When we approach this informal settlement, we spot hundreds of empty jerrycans mounted at different water points, painting a clear picture of the scarcity of water in the area. Residents have lined up to purchase the vital commodity. They inform us this has been the norm for more than a decade. However, not all are lucky to access their precious commodity as the water dries up in some water points. But either way, they line up their jerrycans, living by the mantra that every drop counts. David Wamalwa, a father of 5, is on his way to fetch water for his family. He narrates just how difficult it has been to quench their thirst, but more so the financial burden as he is forced to spend not less than 600 Kenya shillings per month to buy water.
Huyo mtu wa mtokoteni akikuletea kufika hapa atakwambia mtungi moja ni 50 bob. Na mtu uko na familia. Ukisema ununue hizi mitungi zote kama mitungi 20. Napata hiyo pesa haipatikani.
While we were escorting Wamalwa to fill his jerrycans, we spot some water pipes from sewage and other potentially contaminated sources seeping into the supply. And this is the same water that residents are using for drinking and cooking, which poses the question of just how safe is this water.
Kwanza unapata hata pipe imetoboka hapo ndani ya mtaro na bado inapitisha tu maji. So si watu tunakunywa tu kwa sababu hakuna otherwise. Utafanya nini? Hawezi kaa hivyo kiu.
Sisi ni kwenda pale mahali tunanunua kwa water vendor, tunamwekewa maji tujui imepita wapi. Ndio naona muda mrefu vile nimekueleza. Hatuwezi maliza zaidi ya 3 months bila kupata cholera hapa Mukuru.
With a population of 54 million, 15 million Kenyans lack access to safer water and 22 million lack access to improved sanitation.
Kama kitu saa 2, juu nilikuwa natoka saa 2. Nakuja napata hakuna maji, naenda kutafuta napata washafunga. Inabidi niombe jirani hata kama ni jagi moja. Hiyo siku nitumie nipigie watoto.
Nairobi County has 4 sources of water, namely Kikuyu Springs, Ruiru Dam, Sasumua Dam and Thika Dam. The 4 have an installed daily capacity of 440 million liters, 61 million liters, 20 million liters and 4 million liters respectively. This equates to a production capacity of 525.6 million liters per day against a demand of 870 million liters, which brings about a deficit of 350 million liters of water.
Tuuze. So mimi wanahitaji maji kiasi nyingi sana kwa sababu kwa siku naweza chota 20 liters kama hadi 25 30. Kama kazi iko mzuri unaweza hadi 35.
According to the United Nations in 1990, more than 90% of the population in Kenya's urban areas had access to clean water. Now it is estimated that just 50% of Nairobi's 5 million residents have direct access to piped water. Many residents obtain water from kiosks, vendors and illegal connections.
Leo utapata mzuzi wa maji shilingi 10, kesho upate hakuna, mzuzi wa mbao. Kesho kutwa upate sasa hata uende kuchota unanunua mtungi.
Since 2017, a system of rationing has been in place. Different areas of the city, including the informal settlements, where locals receive water on specific days of the week. Some for a few days and others for just a few hours.
Hata huku wakati kuna tuseme moto imetokea moto, vijana hujitokeza, lakini unapata hiyo maji ya kuzima hata hiyo moto pia ni shida.
Kuwa na storage, saa zile iko tuna store mingi. Saa zile imeenda pande zingine unapata tuko na maji na sasa endelea kupea wateja.
According to the Nairobi Water and Sewerage Company, there is currently about a 25% shortfall in supply to Nairobi homes. To address this, the national and county governments through the Athi Water Works Development Agency are developing the Northern Collector Tunnel Phase 1 water project, which is supposed to be commissioned in 2024 and is expected to deliver an additional 140 million litres of water to the city per day. As Kenya joins the world in marking World Water Day, this year's theme being Leveraging Water for Peace, the United Nations reports that more than 3 billion people worldwide depend on water that crosses national borders. Yet, only 24 countries have cooperation agreements for all their shared water. Elizabeth Atieno, TV47.
Thank you, Elizabeth Atieno, for that. Now, the Kenya National Commission on Human Rights is demanding that all security officers who may have ignored reports and intelligence of what was happening at the Shakahola forest be held accountable. They are calling for them to be charged with criminal negligence and individual responsibility for the deaths. Sheila Chelangat reports.
In their report, the Shakahola horror, mass recruitment by controversial preacher Paul Mackenzie, picked during the COVID-19 pandemic. Many lured by promises of a serene life in the forest as they neared the end of the world in August 2023. At the farm, an intense fasting regime took effect, and the followers promised this would culminate to ascension to heaven. The doctrine stipulating that children would be first, followed by women, then men, and finally Pastor Paul Mackenzie.
Wenye kanisa walikuwa wanaweza kuliwa watu kwenda huko kwa sababu walikuwa wanaambia kuna shamba kujwa, mtakuja mpate shamba ya bei ya chini na shamba yenye mnaweza lima. In their investigations, it would emerge the security teams in Malindi might have neglected credible reports of what was happening in the Shakahola forest. The issue of the pastor's controversial teachings even featuring once in the Kilifi Court's Users Committee in 2019. Walikuwa na ripoti nyingi sana ya matendo inayotokea hapo Shakahola. Ripoti zilipelekwa Lango Baya Police Station, Malindi Police Station na kwa watu wa ngao.
So far, 429 bodies have been exhumed, 67 adults and 25 children rescued. However, 1 year later, some survivors are yet to be reconnected with their kin.
Rescue center is not where children should be. Children should be reunited with their families. And 2 of them have so far been reunited with their families. The rest are still in the rescue center.
The delay in charging the 95 Shakahola suspects who had stayed in custody for close to 9 months, the Commission says, hampers efforts of fair hearing.
We should go for the main person who was behind the radicalization. Those who are radicalized and probably believe need treatment. The
Commission is now calling for accountability in taking stern action for those culpable and having the survivors settle down. Sheila Chelangat for TV47.
To politics now. Tonight, Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka and DAP Party leader Eugene Wamalwa rocked the Azimio coalition succession race after the pair, in the company of Kisii Governor Simba Arati, said Raila should entrust Kalonzo and Eugene with the Azimio leadership in case he bags the chairmanship seat at the African Union Commission. Now, Kenya Party leader Martha Karua, in a post on X, told Kalonzo to focus on marketing himself and leave the decision of who is best to voters. Our senior political affairs reporter Apollo Kamau with more.
Wiper Party leader Kalonzo Musyoka's 2-day tour of the Nyanza region has jolted her Azimio core principal and now Kenya Party leader Martha Karua in the ongoing jostling for the Azimio leadership in the imminent exit of coalition leader Raila Odinga to the African Union Commission. Kalonzo, who was in the company of Kisii Governor Simba Arati, his Azimio core principal and DAP Party Kenya leader Eugene Wamalwa, was endorsed by the two leaders on Thursday, much to the chagrin of Karua.
Mheshimiwa Kalonzo, kuja Kisii, tembea, tuko tayari kutembea pamoja na wewe. Baba amekwenda Addis Ababa.
Tunataka watu wa Nyamira mjue, baba akienda ametuachia Kalonzo Musyoka.
Karua on her ex-post posted, and I quote, "My unsolicited advice to my brother Kalonzo is to focus on marketing himself and the decision of who is best to the voters." During a joint press conference on Friday morning, before leaving for Migori, Wamalwa said Azimio is safe in the hands of Kalonzo and himself, with the two leaders dismissing reports of a split in Azimio in case Odinga leaves for Addis Ababa.
But when the captain leaves the pitch, he just hands over the captain's band to another so that the match goes on. Today we want to assure you, the people of this region, that Baba will be going to Addis, but he's leaving a very strong team. He's leaving as Kalonzo Musyoka, he's leaving as Wamalwa and others in Azimio who are able to lead Azimio to continue fighting for Kenyans, and we will never relent.
Azimio is united. We are so focused, in fact, even more than ever before, because all we are saying is let our captain, our brother Raila Odinga, go on and get this seat, and we are all fully in support. We are praying for him. Even some of us know some of these dynamics. We are able to see what we can do.
During the Kisii tour, Kalonzo, who was flanked by Wiper legislators, despite majority of the county MPs giving the tour a wide berth, opened the Wiper Party offices in Kisii County while praising his leadership credentials for having worked with late President Mwai Kibaki as his vice president and Odinga's faith in him to lead the Azimio National Dialogue Team that midwifed the NADCO report.
Tumefungua ofisi ya chama cha Wiper. Tunasema Wiper ikiwa na nguvu na ODM iwe na nguvu na Democratic Action Party ya Mheshimiwa Eugene iwe na nguvu na Jubilee ya Uhuru Kenyatta iwe na nguvu, hao watu tutaondoa mamlakani asubuhi. Si ni kweli?
Apul Kamau, TV47.
Still in politics, Azimio Brigade led by Wiper leader Kalonzo Musyoka has slammed President William Ruto and the Kenya Kwanza government over continued taxation, on Kenyans, making life more unbearable for them, despite their promise to make life better for the common mwananchi. Speaking in his tour of Migori County, the Wiper boss further says that they will continue to oppose the housing tax, insisting that nothing will stop them from standing with Kenyans, and also dismissing claims that Azimio will be dead once Raila joins the AU Commission.
Kuja na mapesa ili wamewaibia. Ili ambao umeibiwa wewe mwenyewe kodi ukatoa jasho ukatolewa kodi. Hata kuna kodi pengine wanaume na wanawake iko njiani. Haijulikani. Atakuja na hiyo pesa akuonge. Akwambie sasa tumeregesha maisha iko sawa sawa. Bei ya petroli iko sawa sawa. Kwanza chukua shilingi milioni 1 hii. Mnaanza kugawanya hapa. Mnaanza kusema huyo. Alafu kimbie kufikiria miaka mingine 5 ya Kenya kuisha. Itakuwaje hapa? Kwa sasa wanauoga kidogo, wanataka kupigiwa kura awamu nyingine. Kosoa. Tutasimama imara hata kama baba atapata hiki kiti na tumuombea akipate. Na sisi ambao tutasalia kwanza tutashikilia Azimio as if nothing had even happened. Na baba atakuwa around. Namna hiyo, nyinyi mtatuunga mkono.
Wana bodaboda vile mnaumia mafuta, sio sababu ya Waarabu, ni sababu ya Bwana Zakayo na watu wake wa Kenya Kwanza ndio wamedouble ushuru kwa mafuta, ndio sababu mnaumia. Sisi tumesema hiyo mambo lazima Zakayo aende asiende. Watu wangapi wanasema Zakayo aende? Hebu nione. Leo tunataka pia tuambie watu wa Migori na watu wa Nyanza ya kwamba kuna wengi wamekuwa na wasiwasi ya kwamba sasa baba akienda kutakuaje. Leo nataka niwaambie msiwe na wasiwasi. Let not your hearts be troubled.
Welcome to the latest in the world of business. Now, the Cooperative Bank of Kenya is reporting a net profit of 23.2 billion shillings for the financial year ended 2023, up from 22 billion shillings in 2022. In the wake of the net profit growth, the bank's board of directors announced a dividend payout of 1 shilling and 50 cents per share, amounting to 8.8 billion shillings. The dividend payout is subject to shareholders' approval during a virtual meeting scheduled in May this year.
In the backdrop of increased income and reduced operating costs, the Cooperative Bank of Kenya has recorded a net profit of 23.2 billion Kenya shillings for the financial year ended December 2023, compared to 22 billion Kenya shillings for a similar period in 2022. In the wake of the net profit representing 5.2% growth, the bank has recommended a individual payout of 1.5 Kenya shillings per share, amounting to 8.8 billion Kenya shillings. The dividend payout is, however, subjected to shareholders' approval during a virtual annual general meeting scheduled for May this year. Cooperative Bank Managing Director Gideon Muriuki said, and I quote, "The strong performance has led to a sustained increase in shareholder value as reflected in the competitive return of equity of 21%. The bank's net interest income remained stable to stand at 44.2 billion Kenya shillings compared to 45.5 billion Kenya shillings in the year 2022. Total non-interest income grew by 2.8% from 27.5 billion Kenya shillings to 26.5 billion Kenya shillings, pushing total operating income to 71.69 billion Kenya shillings from 71.25 billion Kenya shillings. Under the review period, the bank cut its operating expenses by 6% to 39.67 billion shillings from 42.24 billion Kenya shillings on reduced provisioning for loan losses, with loan defaults falling by 30.8% to 6 billion Kenya shillings. The bank's total assets grew by 671 billion Kenya shillings, a 10.5% growth from 607 billion Kenya shillings in the same period last year. The bank's customer deposits grew by 6.6% from 423.8 billion Kenya shillings to 451.6 billion Kenya shillings. External funds from development partners now stand at 67.3 billion Kenya shillings from 48.1 billion Kenya shillings in the year 2022. Shareholders' funds also have increased to 113 billion Kenya shillings from 107.7 billion Kenya shillings in the year 2000 and 2022.
Now to the latest in the world of sports. The WRC Safari Rally event director Jim Kahumbura has resigned this afternoon, a few days before the global motorsport event zooms off in Kenya. Kahumbura did not give specific reasons for his resignation. However, the Secretariat is burning the midnight oil in an effort to tick all the boxes. The assistant event director Chris Kiroi is expected to replace Kahumbura, who was part of the team which ensured the Safari Rally, returned to the World Rally Championship calendar. The race is expected to start on Thursday next week, and international drivers arrive in the country this weekend. Well, 32 minutes past the hour, time now for a very short break, but don't go away. As I promised, if you're a budding entrepreneur and you're wondering where to find source funds for your startup, we got you in the next 1 minute or so. Keep it here.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look at several dynamics.
From groundbreaking.
Nowadays with the tech, you can check on different websites or you check online and you can see some inspiration. So at least that one would be a direction already. I'll know like what kind of style you're going for.
To finishing touches, witness the dedication of the hard-working teams who bring these ambitious dreams to reality. The Realtor, Tuesdays at 6:30 p.m.
Na safari hii katika Mfahamu Kiongozi tutakuletea viongozi aina mbalimbali.
Nikuwe na nisani kama 10 na pia nikuwe menua minibus. Minibus niko niwa.
Kushinda unaangalia simu ya mzee, soma Biblia ama ingia kwa washroom ujisugue mpaka nimetoa hivi.
I don't know whether any of my children would want to get into the political field. Sijajua bado.
Kila Alhamisi saa 1:30 kuendelea.
Join us on a journey through the concrete jungles and rising skylines, where every beam, every nail tells a story of progress and vision.
In every aspect of life, you know, you have to look.
Welcome back and thanks for staying with us. Now, one of the primary reasons behind the struggles of Kenyan startups is funding, and that's the reason why today's show we're talking about investors meeting innovators, and I have with me in studio Rawlings Onyango, who's the founder CEO of Elimu Educational Innovations. Thank you so much for finding time to join us. You're welcome. And we have Magothe Innocent, the team lead at STARTIMES.
Yes, STARTIMES, yes.
What exactly does STARTIMES do, Innocent?
Yeah, so at STARTIMES what we do is we offer 360-degree support for founders. So that includes everything around helping a founder succeed. So that's funding, training, mentorship, community and capacity building.
Mostly for tech startups?
Not really, but ideally most startups just tend to be tech startups, but yeah.
All right, so let's keep this going. Rawlings Onyango, the founder CEO of Easy Elimu. I'm sure when you're coming up with Easy Elimu, there's that light bulb moment that you had. How was it like? What were you trying to solve in the market?
Yeah, so the light bulb moment for Easy Elimu did just come with the snap of a finger. It was a cascading of events, and also as I was growing up, the entrepreneurship was inside my blood. I remember there's a time I even sold popcorn beside the road, and so entrepreneurship was in me. But at the same time, after Form 4, I also had some time to venture into teaching. And as I was teaching high school, as I was teaching high school students tuition, private tuition, as I was teaching primary schools, I saw the need that was in the market and a big gap that teachers needed teaching materials. I was a teacher at that time. Also, learners needed somewhere to practice. So all this coming together is how Easy Elimu was conceived, and we started working on it back in 2018.
You said it was a cascading of several moments.
Right.
And like any entrepreneur, I'm sure you'll share an experience with us about a setback, or rather setbacks that you had to navigate to be where you are. Can you share particularly one that really put you off and you're like, no, this entrepreneurship journey is not mine?
Entrepreneurship journey is also always difficult. And even now, I'm not saying that we are at a point where we have no challenges. We still have a lot of challenges. But the biggest challenge that I've had so far has been finances. And that was one of my biggest setbacks, because you are getting to end months, payroll is here, you don't have money to pay staff, you don't have money to pay rent. And so in this journey, it is never a place where you have now arrived, you have now achieved everything, but it keeps on going. So that was my biggest challenge. Not very much now, but as I was starting up, that was the biggest challenge.
I can see Innocent laughing and nodding in approval. I'm sure you've met such entrepreneurs in your practice. STARTIMES, basically, you've said, provides support, 360-degree support.
Yes.
So how do you, or rather, what do you look for in a potential investment opportunity? And what do you think sets a profitable startup from the rest?
It's usually very easy, I think. According to me, it's three things: problem, team, and the solution, yeah? So are you solving a problem that is big enough for a big enough market? And you have the right team to achieve the solution, yeah? A lot of times we find that, especially in the African setup, founders tend to solve problems for themselves, yeah? So if I'm going through a problem, I think that it's a problem for everyone else, and I go ahead to try to solve it. What we really do is, are you solving a big enough problem for a big enough market? And if you have those two things, then do you have the right team or even the right person to solve that problem, yeah?
And you've mentioned a common problem.
Yeah.
People trying to solve problems that they imagine are affecting other people.
Yes.
So from where you sit, how do you assess the scalability of a potential startup that you want to invest in?
Yeah. So that really varies across industries, but I think the easiest one we use is, can you sell your product to at least one person who is not your family, who is not your friend, or the fool who ideally is the other person who would ideally believe in you? So are you able to actually, can somebody take a bet on you? So most times, if you look at how the ecosystem has changed, about 3 years ago, we would invest in ideas a lot. Right now, we are really averse towards that. So we want to see, have you at least sold to 10 people and they've actually paid? So if those 10 people have actually paid for your solution, are there other 10 people who could potentially pay for that solution? If there are other 10 people, are there other 100 people? And then now how do you cascade that outwards? I think that's the easiest scale. It's a lot more complicated, but yeah, because obviously we can't always predict what works. Yes.
Well, great metrics. Rollins, have you done that? Have you tried selling your product to a person who's not your family, not a friend? The third one was?
A fool.
Have you tried that?
Currently at Easy Elimu, monthly, we are getting 600,000 visitors to our website.
Okay.
And they not only visit, but they also go ahead and make transactions. So we are currently selling to hundreds of people every day, thousands every month, and we are having a big impact in the market.
All right.
Yes.
So Innocent, share some success stories with us. Tell us some of the startups that you've invested in and they're successful, to inspire not only Rollins here and other budding entrepreneurs out there.
Yeah. So we have some great startups we've not invested in really, but supported through various platforms. And the reason I wouldn't say invest really is because I really look at investment on a very different angle. It's not always cash. So at times we invest in terms of mentorship, at times we invest in terms of training. My favorite startup is a startup that is called Akili Cash by a guy called Brian Derito. And we met this guy when he just had an idea and he built that startup out. In about 3 days, he had an MVP, which is a minimum viable product. He had some that could go to market. We just finished a hackathon where he won the Britam hackathon and probably will be joining the accelerator by Britam. So that's a success story for us. We have a lot more success stories over the last 3-4 years of existence. We've helped various startups raise about $5 million, which is not little cash. Yeah. And on top of that, we have seen 2-3 startups enter into new markets. Yeah, and that really is success for us. But then from the bottom of my heart, if I was to be asked what is the real success, it's seeing young founders being able to build startups the right way. So there's a difference between building a startup and becoming successful and building a startup the right way, because what that does is if that specific startup doesn't work, you're able to jump onto something else and build it the same way. Yeah? So we've really put a lot of effort and focus on building the founder, because today you could be building a startup that couldn't matter tomorrow. So are you able to pick, do you have enough skills, or have we given you enough capacity to take over other startups or to even become a CEO of a new startup and still do the same thing? Yeah. Well,
Innocent, the issue of trust, or rather trust issues, is innate in human. It's natural. Yeah. We naturally have trust issues. Yeah. And you might find, you've mentioned an entrepreneur who had an idea. You helped him from the ideation stage to now to the MVP, the minimum viable product. Yeah. Have you met people who have serious trust issues they don't want to share with you, with STARTIMES as a whole, as the company? People who don't want to share, thinking that the idea probably will be stolen. Yes, yes. And we've seen that. It's something that is there, so we understand them. Have you met such, and what has it been like?
It happens every day, but something I usually say, it could be new to you, doesn't necessarily mean it's new to the world. That's number one. Number two is you can share without oversharing. You can say what needs, because at the end of the day, you could say you're not sharing with me, but you're potentially stopping your future investment. You're potentially stopping your future partner, your future customer. So how do you share to a point where it's safe to share? That's number one. Number two, it's how do you protect your idea as you start? We are doing a lot in that area where we are training founders on how to do basic idea protection. But then I usually tell people, look, you could spend 6 months protecting your idea, going to register your trademark, your copyright, whatever it is. Then somebody else who really doesn't care comes to us, we give them the money, and in 2 months they're on, and now they're fast to market, where you still had the same solution that you took a bit longer. So I think it's usually intelligence on the founder side. Okay. How do you actually protect what you have, but then not stifle your growth at the same time? Yeah.
Rollins, do you reach out to partners, probably seeking collaborations with guys like STARTIMES or other guys who help startups at an early age?
Yes, so last year we had a funding actually from the MasterCard Foundation. Oh, all right. And it wasn't equity or a debt, it was a grant. And the funding also came with training, training the founders, training us on all areas of running the business, including hiring, going to the market. So apart from the funding that they gave us from the MasterCard Foundation, we also got a lot of support that saw Easy Elimu go to leaps and bounds. Actually, just last month, we launched a brand new product, which is very different from the one that we had before we joined the MasterCard Foundation. So far, the MasterCard Foundation has been our biggest partners. But currently, we are looking to enter into partnerships with schools and partnerships also NGOs, so that our product might reach even more people.
And from where you sit, I'm sure you'll always think about innovation. And having your company innovate also involves risks. Have you been at a point where you took a big risk and it paid off? An example of a time like that?
Such an example is when I hired, it was very early still, but I got 1 month of very high revenues. which made me to believe that I'm probably started to make it. So I hired 4 people at once, and it became tough after some months. But through that, we were able to build faster, and I also believe it is through that we were also able to enter into the MasterCard Foundation Fellowship that helped us also grow much faster. But if I had not taken the risk or taken that bet, I would probably still be struggling right now. Yes.
Well, Innocent, I can see you laughing. It's like you've met a lot of these stories. You've had experiences with the entrepreneurs. What has your experience been like when talking to entrepreneurs who wanted to expand fast and like Rolling says, they thought they've already made it? What experiences have you had?
Wow, interesting. I hear these stories every day. The question usually is, how fast can you expand? Yeah, and at what point is too much? Yeah? So most founders tend to think the moment you raise funding, the first thing is open new markets, hire a new team, get a bigger office, and usually say, what is the core of your business? And you shouldn't let money sort of take you away from the core of your business. Yeah? If you are solving a certain problem in a very good way, and now you've gotten cash, what you should focus on is solving the problem in a better way, not necessarily going to a bigger office. I think that's usually the first one. The other one is thinking now that MacBooks are better than HPs. Happens a lot as well. So how do you utilize the money? Because at the end of the day, it's somebody else's money you're burning.
Yeah.
That's number one. That's what I think founders forget a lot. Number two is that money could end any day. I have stories of founders who got funding and then the funding was recalled. And you had moved to a new office, you had gotten a bigger car, you had gotten a bigger team. So most times investors, I think you've seen these stories where a founder says we've raised $1 million, yeah?
Yes.
In real sense, at times it doesn't come as $1 million. It comes in 10 tranches of 100K, 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 yeah? Over.
And sometimes in equity.
Yes, sometimes in equity, sometimes it's debt. So how do you protect yourself in such a way that if that money never comes, if the whole tranche doesn't come, you can still afford to fail and fail fast? Because I usually say, and that's the role we try to play as STARTIMES, even if you fail, you need to be able to bounce back as fast. Right. Most times founders fail and they can't bounce back at all. So how fast are you able to bounce back? And at times it's maintaining a very lean team. So what do you actually need and what do you need? Number one. Number two is spending as much time doing what you need to do. If it's transporting potatoes from Kinangop to Nairobi, maybe your work is transportation. I think you've seen a couple of startups who try to solve the entire food chain. So you want to be the producer, you want to be in the logistics, you want to come be the seller, and you're at a very young stage. Do what you're really good at best. Somebody else is very good at logistics, somebody else is very good at retail. So how do you work on those collaborations to make sure that you're moving a lot more faster? Otherwise, I think that's the biggest problem I've seen. Expanding into too many markets too fast, or you raise money and you think now I can own the entire food chain. There's a reason it's a food chain. Somebody else is helping somebody else, and somebody else is better at you at doing other things. Do what you're really good at, extremely, extremely well, then these other parts work. And even if you end up in those areas, it's just a value add. It's not really diverting you from what you do every day. Yeah. And remember that normal PC laptops are the same. Yeah. Yeah, at times they're just the same, yes. Okay, so you're an investor. Yeah. I'm sure you want value for your money. How do you navigate the balance between being hands-on on startups, at the same time also offering them the autonomy to execute their vision? How do you navigate that balance? This world is one of the toughest worlds. At times you don't even know what you're getting yourself into. Because it's a shark world, yeah? Even as you try to invest. And it's not our money, it's somebody else's money at times, yeah? So you know you're there, you're taking risk on somebody else's money with somebody else, yeah? So at times it's trusting that the founder knows what they're doing. But then again, back to my first point, a lot of capacity building on the founder. Because at the end of the day, you are better off making a bad investment on a good founder than making a really good investment on a bad founder. Okay. Yes. Wow. Rollins, many startups at a very early age usually struggle with resources. So how do you prioritize? You say, these are the resources we have. This will go here. We're not going to get MacBooks. Stick to our PCs. How do you prioritize? How do you come up with such decisions?
I want to confess that I'm guilty of buying a couple of MacBooks last year, but I prioritize depending on the level that we are executing at that point. Because if you don't have a product, you can't start to prioritize marketing and sales, yet you don't have anything to take to the market. So I prioritize depending on what is urgent. And for the past 6 months, that has been building our product. And going forward, I think now the product is ready and it's ready to hit the market now. Easy Elimu, what we have built for the past 6 months is now ready to hit the market. And so my priority going forward from April, it will be now aggressive marketing to try to reach, because I realized that probably even Eric Monene heard about Easy Elimu today, yet we are having a big impact on the ground, but many people don't know about Easy Elimu. So we are going now to prioritize sales and reaching out to our clients from going forward.
So your journey, I'm sure, is a roller coaster of a lot of things, emotions, different levels of energy. So how do you get that resilience, that psyche to keep going every morning when you wake up?
Just show up. That's what I say. Because some days are tough. Some days it's end month. You need to pay bills. You need to pay salaries. You're alone. All that pressure is on you. But the more you show up, also your team sees you are there, you are giving them support, you're also giving them motivation, whenever even it's tough. Showing up beats being at a high every time. So my policy there is that I always show up no matter the situation I'm currently facing.
Mm-hmm. All right. And in the interest of time, as we wrap this up, Innocent, I'm sure before you invest in any startup, there has to be due diligence. For someone who's watching, for a future entrepreneur who's watching, kindly, very fast, take us through the processes that you employ in due diligence.
It's quite complicated, so I'll just say one thing. Don't lie. Just your numbers don't lie. Be very truthful about your numbers, because a lot of times a founder will say we've reached 1,000 customers. Trust me, for sure, the day due diligence starts, we are going to check whether you reached 1,000 customers. You've sold 100,000 pieces of socks, for example. We will check, yeah? Be very truthful about your numbers. As an investor, I'm more confident knowing you've sold 2 pieces of socks and you need to sell 10. Now, if I really believe in your startup, how do I help you? Mm-hmm. Do I help you get a better team? Do I help you get more money? Do I help you get into new markets? Just don't lie about your numbers. I think everything else could be right, but the moment I realize your numbers are wrong, everything else is wrong. Because even from an investment point of view, yes, it's numbers, and it's pluses and minuses. So just don't lie about your numbers. Mm-hmm. It's the worst you could do.
All right.
Yeah.
Rollins, I want to give you an opportunity to give us your parting shot. Just tell us anything as an entrepreneur, an advice, a comment, or maybe an experience that you feel will help someone out there, someone who's watching, and they want to start this journey of being an entrepreneur. For
all entrepreneurs out there, I want to encourage you that no matter what happens and no matter how tough it gets tough for all of us. Keep on pushing, and also give a word of caution, but that entrepreneurship is not for everyone. You'll be better off looking for employment and working at a stable job.
And don't expand too fast.
And don't buy also MacBooks and iPhones for the team.
Well, Magothi Innocent.
Yes.
In a minute or less, your parting shot.
Parting shot number 1, network as much as possible. Your money is probably sitting in somebody else's pocket, and the reason you don't have it is because you think you're building your startup for yourself. As a founder, at times, just step out to that event, step out to that networking event. At times, if it's being charged, just appear. At times, that's where your money is sitting. That's where your next customer is sitting. That's where your next co-founder at times is sitting. That's number 1. Number 2 is speak about your product as much.
All right.
A lot of times founders don't speak. What do? I'm Innocent. I speak about your product. You never know who you're speaking to. So yeah, sell like you can never sell. Any opportunity to sell out there is an opportunity for your startup to reach one more customer, a new investor, a new partner, sell as much as you can, and obviously network as much as you can as well.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much, Magothe Innocent. Magothe Innocent is a team lead at STARTIMES. If you're an entrepreneur or you want to start this entrepreneurial journey, you have an early stage startup, look for him. Look him up online, Magothe Innocent, the team lead at STARTIMES. Thank you so much. And of course, thank you to Rawlings Onyango, the founder, CEO of Easy Elimu Innovations. Thank you so much, gentlemen, for finding time to join us for this very, very insightful conversation.
Thank you so much.